One of them was Erminia. Erminia peed on herself and starved to death anonymously. And that is what Erminia did.
Howdy everyone, and thank you for giving my first video a little look-see. As long as your taxes are paid in full, I promise not to invade your dreams and hunt you like the weak, worthless plaything of our eldritch lords that you are. So, hopefully you did that. Zeno Clash is a 2009 first-person fighting and sometimes shooting game developed by Ace Team, a Chilean studio co-founded by brothers Andres, Carlos, and Edmundo Bordeaux. Together, the power of their names creates the titular Ace, and together, the power of their ideas brings my night terrors to life. Initially, Ace Team focused on total conversions of older games, such as something tantalizingly named Batman Doom. But soon, they moved on to a wholly original idea dubbed Xenozoic Shattered Land. Unfortunately, Xenozoic proved to be too tall in order for such a small and inexperienced studio. So they swapped over to Source Engine, stripped out all the exploration and role-playing elements, and reforged everything else into what would become Zeno Clash. I personally first purchased Zeno Clash in 2011. I just set up the Alienware M17X laptop I had inexplicably convinced my mother was necessary to write college essays. And yes, before you even ask, I felt absolutely ridiculous pulling out that matte black behemoth amidst a sea of sleek silver MacBooks, hunching over its keyboard like Master EG because apparently my tuition wasn't enough to afford adult-sized desks. The first game I bought was Dawn of War 2, for obvious reasons. The second game I bought was Zeno Clash, because it was on sale and I'm a big fan of punching dudes in the face. Then I promptly forgot about it for over a decade. But we're here now, and let me tell you, that initial promise of punching dudes in the face, goddamn do they deliver. Sadly, before we get to the primal thrill of all those ooey gooey delicious tasty knuckle sandwiches, we have to talk about what can be charitably called the story. After all, as anyone who's ever had the privilege of punching a Nazi will tell you, violence is only as good as the context behind it. After selecting new game and the normal difficulty, because I'm a big boy with things to do and playing games other than Souls-likes for the difficulty is stupid, we're treated to an opening montage of the enigmatic father-mother and their brood, who apparently survive solely on a diet of chicken and onions. Which, same. We, the protagonist, that young whippersnapper right there, appears to wordlessly point at some sort of document, driving father-mother into a blind, stompy rage. We're then exiled, several seemingly unconnected scenes play out, and then a wailing father-mother topples to the floor. We are then unceremoniously dumped into the tutorial where a masked man, orc, average Republican senator, where some dude reveals that our name is Gat and that we learned that trick with the bomb from him. However, we didn't do it right because we're still alive, so this is just a quick pit stop in either the realm of the dead or our own concussion mind palace. Unfazed by whatever just happened, we savagely kick some chickens to death and learn the basics of combat, which, rest assured, I'll be digging into more intimate detail later. Gat wakes up, the gigantic, vulture-esque corpse of father-mother still warm at his feet, and does exactly what I do after successful bombing, just fucking books it. We catch up with him sometime later. It's daylight now, and the panning shot of a city hints at a new location, but then it zooms in to show Gat is still running and still has blood on his hands. So apparently we've just been hustling and bustling from dawn till dusk like the only scene from Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies my brain hasn't actively repressed. The only attractive woman in the world rolls up and with zero introduction or context of who she is or how we know her or why she's involved, she reveals that Father-Mother's other children are coming for us. Your siblings arrive as advertised, you beat the ever-loving Zumbas out of them, and then suffer through another tutorial, and finally learn that your companion's name is Deidre, You also get your first objective, fleeing into the forest to hide until, until you die. I guess that's his plan, to just go die in the forest. To be honest, there's not a whole lot to Zeno Clash's story. It wasn't the developer's focus, and it's not why we're here. And sometimes that's fine. I've loved many games with bad stories. But also, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. But not a lot of it matters, which may not be a good thing to say about my own content, but also I don't want to start our new I hate myself. Also, I don't want to start our new relationship off by lying to you, which is something I've never said to a woman because it's never been true. That being said, for anyone who wants to go in mostly blind, skip to the time you see resplendent upon your screen, because hopefully I'll have learned how to do that by now, and I'll take a quick pause for spoilers, sparse as they may be. So, this is me pausing. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just wasting time. Well, I'm actually petting my cat right now because he is a big chunky floof for handsome Mr. Mans who does not understand why I've been melting into my computer chair like a smelly hermit the last few days while I edit this video. Alright, we all good? We all locked and loaded? Did you take your Adderall today? Did you get a snack? If not, go get a snack. Grab me a snack. Actually, give me your snack. This is now a robbery. Gat and Deidre safely reach the forest and discover a quote-unquote crazy tribe of quote-unquote people called the Corwid of the Free. Each Corwid dedicates themselves to one thing, one small slice of life that brings them joy and ignores all else. Gat's example of this is a nearby man who lives only to bang his head against a tree, ignoring everything else around him. Because, why not? That man then immediately stops banging his head against a tree to try and beat the smelly, dehydrated piss out of you. After wiping yet more blood off his hands, Gat explains that he understands the Corwid so well because, insert gasp here, he himself was a Corwid. We jump into his flashback, fight some dudes, and learn, literally nothing, a fact which Deidre immediately calls him out for. That's okay. Actually, one of my favorite parts of Zeno Clash is that Gat is such a not person, such an empty vessel, a useless hunk of meat that he can't even tell a story within his own story. Every time he claims to be providing context for his actions, Deidre's just like, huh? What was I supposed to get from that? And then Gat just ignores her, and the game continues, as though you know what's going on. We fight some more Corwids who all seem way more interested in fisticuffs than the one thing they're allegedly dedicating their life to, and it all culminates in another tutorial with our ghost coach, now revealed to be named Metamach, and also revealed to have been our alive coach when he was alive. Despite our best effort, Metamach beats our bum booty like a bongo drum and then proceeds to impart his final lesson.
If you are satisfied and do what you feel you must do, no matter what that is. Then you have reached perfection.
And then he killed himself.
We, then find ourselves in the desert. That's actually the best way I can describe Zeno Clash's plot progression. You don't make decisions, you don't have a plan, you just find yourselves in various locations and fight whatever dudes are there. I cannot stress enough how jarring this is to actually play, especially with the back and forth between past and present. Since all the characters are the same in both narrative arcs and the only transition you get is 1 or 2 lines of dialogue that don't even set up what you're about to experience, it all blends together into a gelatinous, chunky smoothie. And then you keep drinking that smoothie. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter whether you're in the past, present, whether you're playing this game still, whether you've blacked out, you just want to punch more dudes. So we're in the desert, and... wait a minute. What's this? Are Gat and Deidre an item? I'm not saying there's no such thing as platonic cuddling, but no girl gently strokes your neck like that unless she wants to bleed you sexually and financially dry. Surprise! Returning from a rabbit hunt, you're ambushed by some blind crab enthusiast named The Hunter. He informs Gat that his family has placed a bounty on his head, and he intends to collect. He does not collect, though Deidre does take this opportunity to finally ask the first question any real, rational person would have asked, which is, why the hell is any of this happening? As an answer, Gat launches into yet another flashback, revealing that he went home to Halston after being showered in his mentor's brains. 1 second, we gotta watch that clip again. I cannot believe this man just yeets himself into the great beyond. Apologies to my younger viewers. However, instead of returning to Father Mother, Gat went to investigate a group called the Northgate Gang. Just like his story about joining the Corwids, Gat provides literally no explanation for why he did this. We get no info on the Northgate Gang, what existing concerns he had about Father Mother, anything, nada. In a way, this does mirror the Corwid of the Free Teachings. Gat moves forward because that is what Gat does. Gat takes everyone he meets to the Pummelville High Prom because that is what Gat does. I can catch just a refracted glimmer of what they're going for. In Halston, we accept a fetch quest from some woman, some unnamed and never again mentioned woman. She doesn't matter. We go beat up some dudes for her, and in return she gives us the password to the Northgate Bar, which is the base of the Northgate Gang. Now, I'm not much of a bar guy. I'm more of a watching an entire season of Kitchen Nightmares with a bottle of gin at home type of fella. But I would go to this bar. I would become a regular here and guzzle more than my fair share of rooster blood. I mean, look at this place. See? This is me. That's me right there. I have astral projected myself into the game, and you can't stop me unless you somehow find out where I live and smudge a line of my ritual circle. But please don't do that. Behind the Northgate Bar, we catch Father Mother talons deep in some sort of shady, backroom, baby-based deal. They hurriedly stuff a baby into their cloak already brimming with babies, but it's too late. We saw those babies. The Northgate Gang is none too pleased with us breaking up their baby party, so we promptly give them all irreversible brain damage. Confronting Father Mother, they're clearly hurt by our decision to join the Corwids whenever we did that, and tell us to go away forever. You may be wondering what the point of that story was. Deidre is also wondering.
Why did Father Mother get so upset?
I figured it out later, but I can't tell you why.
But that's the whole point of telling me the story.
I need Gat to take one entry-level creative writing class. I need him to provide a single reason for Deidre to be with him besides the fact that he could beat up anyone she would otherwise be interested in. Whiplashing back to the present in an entirely new region the game never introduced, it's apparently always night. We immediately steal a crystal scepter from a gang of nearby goomen, and are for some reason shocked when they demand their property back. We decline and use their own magic to devastate their community and break into their local tomb world. If it sounds like the pace of the story is picking up, you are laughably incorrect. This section is just so far removed from the rest of the game that, much like I did during my playthrough, I'm simply sprinting through it at full speed. Don't get me wrong though, I get down with the Necrons. I bought the Indominus box set. I painted a full squad of Scorpec destroyers so poorly I refuse to even show them on the screen to complement this bit. But functionally, this is just 20 plus minutes of bopping goomen on the head with a stick. At the center of the tomb world, plugged into a budget golden throne next to his favorite Rubik's Cube, we find some fucking guy. He kindly introduces himself as Gollum and reveals that he is Deus Ex Machina incarnate. Already up to date and up to speed on Gat and everything that's happened and every character and everything that's going on in the world, but he won't tell us any of that, so we are still in the dark. It's fine. It's fine. He informs us that he'll be accompanying us from now on and leads the way to his boat, because apparently the people who captured Gollum left him a boat just in case he ever needed to easily free himself. This boat ride is pretty inarguably the most visually striking section of the game. With the endless barren dunes beneath an equally endless cosmos, the music is ethereal, contemplative. Gollum spouts more pseudo-meditative mumbo-jumbo than your friend who settled for a philosophy degree. Oh yeah, and you shoot a bunch of masked Ewok-looking dudes who I guess just live here. Gollum tells Deidre that he considers both Father, Mother, and Gat to be criminals for the things they've done, but does not elaborate further. Which seems a little weird. Gollum seems a little judgy, but also the man is caked to death, so he gets to win whatever argument he wants.
If you want to try to find coherence in the world, have the courtesy of becoming apathetic.
Too true. Too true. So, we beat up some more dudes in the present, we beat up some more dudes in the past, don't worry, you're not missing anything, and then finally, we get to the point in Gat's sporadic, ludicrously disjointed tale where he fought Father Mother. If you've been following along, that is right before the beginning of the game. We have now, most of the way through the game, reached the beginning of the game, and oh lordy loo-hoo. I love how you can see me just fucking flee in unexpected terror of how fast Father Mother closed the distance. This is the game's second boss fight, and first with real mechanics, so it legitimately caught me off guard. Also, as you'll find out when I cover more directly horror-themed games, I'm a bit of a bitch. Anyway, we put Metamoc's final lesson to use, and Kaczynski that tall mother, father, and father mother right in the face, and whew, we've come full circle. Wrap it up. Let's go home.
You're still not telling me Father Mother's secret?
No. Now that she is dead, no one should ever know it.
Are you kidding me? I've punched so many dudes and you still... It's fine. We're all fine. Firmly back in the present, we roll up to some random house owned by some random lady holding a pig.
Pig? No, it's not a pig. Or at least not just a pig. This is my son, Gosney.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Apparently that's not a pig, that's her son, Gosney. Telling us to head down to the beach and get ready for a fight, Gollum takes a seat and pulls out his Rubik's Cube. This climactic fight Gollum told us to expect is against the exact same unnamed and pointless bounty hunter from the desert, which is disappointing, but now you also get a dunk on him up close.
Give me your best.
Every antagonist defeated, Gollum leads the way back to Halston, the final destination. That's right, we traversed this entire world across 2 timelines just to end up right where we started killing the same person we already killed. Oh, oops, I jumped ahead. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Father Mother is still alive! You run a one-man train on literally every non-Corwood enemy in the game, and then repeat the exact same boss fight as before. I guess Father Mother has ads this time, so that's technically a difference. This time, though, the game actually accepts your straight-up dumpstering of Father Mother. You stand victorious, until...
Behind you!
Good thing Gollum, the real protagonist, is here to save the day. Using his weird empath mind powers to break Father Mother's finger by breaking his own finger. I didn't obviously re-record this part later because I accidentally deleted the audio for that clip and refused to do the whole boss fight just to get it again. Shut up. Making a decision for the first time in the entire game, Gat decides to both not kill Father Mother and also not tell their secret, which is certainly a choice. I mean, killing Father Mother because of this unspeakable secret has kind of been his whole bag, like what the whole game's been about, but it's fine, you know, like, whatever. Good thing Gollum, the real protagonist, is here to save the day.
Things are going to change here. Father Mother is neither your father nor your mother.
Huh?
He is a male creature, incapable of giving birth to anyone or anything. He took each one of you away from your real fathers and mothers when you were babies.
There are things bigger than Halston, and things bigger even than Xenozoid. This too I will show you. Until now, you have been linked by a fake bond. But I have come to bring you the truth, and you will be linked in a form that no one can break.
I love his stupid Rubik's Cube that looks completely out of place. I love it so much. And that's it. That's the story. Any questions? Oh, is that my hand in the air? Yo, what the fuck was that? So, if I'm understanding correctly, which is unlikely, the core conflict of Zeno Clash is that we killed Father-Mother for stealing babies and replacing them with animals. We find that out in the last 10 seconds. So, according to basic storytelling principles, the events and character interactions we experience throughout the game should lead up to and provide context for the resolution of that conflict. But they don't. The game you play of Zeno Clash barely, if at all, shepherds you along the journey of Zeno Clash the narrative. And honestly, I just really wish it did, because there is a lot of really dang cool concepts sprinkled throughout this game. You just never get to sink your teeth into any of them because they're either relegated to the background or squished between long stretches of mindlessly punching dudes. The core wit of the Free and their strange shamanistic ways, including that one-off mini-boss who buffs nearby enemies and then disappears from the game as soon as you blammo him. The Endworld and its different races of magic-wielding denizens. The defiled post-apocalyptic streets of Halston. I would have loved a narrative that taught me more about these factions and locations. I would even have loved a narrative about Father-Mother. Why does he creep into homes like some sort of avian Santa Claus? Does he do something to his children that grows them into such disturbingly distended shapes and sizes? I don't know, but I would like to know. Maybe the sequel tells me. I guess I'll never know. So you've probably noticed that even during the story section of this video, the vast majority of footage has been me fighting dudes. That's because I'm gonna level with you. Scoot closer. 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 Whoa, way too close. Back the fuck up. Closer. All you do in this game is fight dudes. I don't mean that derisively, like, blah, I can't believe how much first-person combat there is in this first-person fighting game. I mean that, despite tutorial messages popping up almost constantly to explain new mechanics you'll experience once, maybe twice, you will only find 3 objectives in this game that aren't throwing hands. One is shooting rabbits, which is fair, that technically counts as different. Another is lighting candles. And the third is to follow this gentleman to a second location where you fight hella dudes. Never get taken to a second location. In Zeno Clash, there are no real levels. With one noteworthy exception, there are only combat spaces. Some larger or longer than others, but all of which exist solely to give you somewhere to fight a predetermined number of enemies. These are broken up by short blurbs of dialogue and the occasional cutscene, but by and large, Zeno Clash feels like an extended tech demo for what will hopefully grow up into a video game. But that's not to say it's not worth playing. Remember way back at the beginning when I said violence is only as good as the context behind it?
Violence is only as good as the context behind it.
Well, I lied. I pulled a sneaky. I hoodwinked you. You are hornswoggled. The flickering candle of your intelligence has been questioned and you have been found wanting compared to the harsh, blistering glare of my bamboozlement. Because despite the fact that I often had little to no idea why I'm beating these Cronenbergian strangers to a pulp, I sure do love doing it. A lot, like potentially too much. Few virtual experiences top the raw thrill of catching BDSM Big Bird with a mean right hook, hurling him through the air in a climax of squawks and shattered limbs. Like most fighting games, combat in Zeno Clash is built on the classic foundation of light attack, heavy attack, and block. From there, your options open up into more advanced moves, like a slow wind-up power punch that I abused throughout most of my playthrough, quick jab combos to stun, grapples, counters, and a fucking sick, nasty high kick that makes you feel like a certified Cobra Kai enforcer when you pull it off, and a hapless, clumsy goon when your opponent ducks it and immediately cleans your clock. Pressing E locks onto the enemy directly in front of you, allowing you to more easily focus your blows on them. Unfortunately, E is also the key for picking up items and swapping your lock-on to another enemy. So once they start swarming you, it's much easier to ignore the lock-on system entirely and just swing for the fences. While undeniably less smooth and precise than modern games like Vermintide 2 or Dying Light 2 if you were unfortunate enough to get tricked into buying that technical and narrative train wreck, there's a primal meatiness to Zeno Clash's combat that I've yet to find elsewhere. Every punch and kick lands with a concussive smack that shakes your screen ever so slightly. Power attacks hurl your enemies through the air, opening them up for a soccer ball kick to the chops. The immersive texture of combat keeps it satisfying from beginning to, well, about 2/3 of the way through, but a lot of it. When you get tired of punching, or your bare fists just won't get the job done, Zeno Clash also features a small collection of melee and ranged weapons to choose from. There's the dual fish guns, semi-automatic pistols that can easily wombo combo any normal-sized enemy into the Shadow Realm, the musket, which is a musket, the crossbow that takes so long to reload you're usually better off just throwing it at your enemies, the grenade gun, which also takes an eternity to reload but also knocks enemies down for an even longer eternity, the bone club, a big honkin' claymore-looking femur, and finally the hammer, which is last because it disappointed me in every category of hammer assessment. Oh, there are also throwable bomb skulls, but those roll so far and take so long to explode that I think I only used it once effectively in this entire playthrough. While not meant to be a shooter, the guns of Zeno Clash perform their functions surprisingly admirably, with just enough recoil and impact to keep range combat from feeling tacked on or like a last resort. Honestly, to my slight embarrassment, on harder difficulties, I basically just ran around enemies, finding guns and shooting them until they died, refusing to even engage them on equal terms. Because, like, you rolled up on me, man. You brought these guns. I would be a big, dumb, stupid poopy head not to use them against you. Much more importantly, though, these reload animations are chunky. The hollow skeleton pop and lock of the fish guns is my personal favorite, with the crossbow's double wire rasp and hammer pull as a solid second. As mentioned previously, the musket is a musket. Now that you know all the horrible things you can do to enemies, let's get to know all the beasties and brohams you'll be introduced throughout Zeno Clash's campaign. Excluding random animals such as dogs, crabs, bugs, and horned poison-burping moa birds that fill my lizard brain with a terror I've yet to fully understand, the bulk of your enemies will be human-ish. But despite their wacky and disparate appearances, most of them went to the same karate class of sprinting directly at you just to alternate between blocking long enough for you to realize you have to break their block, or swinging slowly enough that you feel cool countering. There are exceptions, such as the first deeply unnerving Corwin you fight who scoots away from power attacks like a frightened puppy just to sneak around and strike you from the shadows, or Helim, who gets his own intro cutscene and eye poke attack that you probably won't even see before you gun him down. You will also face a number of plus-sized mini-bosses who can only be harmed with melee weapons. Rather than adding extra difficulty or acquiring advanced tactics to defeat, these portly boys dragged a resigned sigh from the depths of my soul each time they trundled into the fray. Because every one of these jelly belly ballets devolves into retreating far enough for them to charge, giving them a few taps on the backside, and then splitting their skull open until your weapon shatters. But I mean, at least the final whack is brutal enough to send a shimmy up the spine. There is no inventory management, no dialogue options, no upgrades to find, no currencies to spend, nothing but the rhythmic crack of your knuckles against the fur, scales, and flesh of anyone and everyone unfortunate enough to get in your way. Conceptually, I do get what they were going for. With relatively simple combat, you don't have to micromanage every moment, freeing you to enjoy the physicality and personalities of the enemies you're fighting. As someone who isn't particularly good at fighting games, but is particularly good at enjoying gross shit, I appreciate that. However, I can't stop wishing for one other element, one other aspect to make this game truly feel like a fully fleshed out game. So, quick recap, the story is not very good. The gameplay is fun, but struggles under the weight of your expectation that it will be a game you play. So what makes Zeno Clash worth talking about? What keeps it from disappearing into the heaving ocean of time, dragged down by the endless games that came before and after? Quite simply, Zeno Clash fucks. Zeno Clash fucks heavy. Zeno Clash is a wasteland of casual brutality, where chickens have their heads ripped off to teach you how to shoot, and Keebler elves try to shiv you in the street, where every location feels like a painting you've accidentally stepped into rather than a functional place. From beginning to end, Ace Team has shown a remarkable dedication to letting the natural form speak for itself. Most enemies are naked except for their musty codpieces and nipple straps, proudly displaying their gnarled skin and anthropomorphic deformities. They are all ugly, and beautiful, and hideous. Almost everyone. Every character except Dietra is delightfully inventively icky. Some of my favorites are Potts, your brother who just loves to wear pots. Oxameter, the sphere-headed stompy boy who forever walks forward in a straight line. Oh, look at this guy. I love this guy. I love this Wednesday Addams looking motherfucker. Look at this lady who has like 15 snakes around her apartment that she uses as hookah pipes. Look at the door to this bar I just want to hang out in that is both a megalithic depiction of a guy double-fisting beers and also, I guess, like a self-aware gear-powered doorman AI. The lone snippet of Hallstrom that you get to experience feels so gosh darn rusted and decrepit, but also thoroughly lived in. There is more personality in these dumpster diving mechanics than most entire modern AAA franchises. Also, I just really want to hang out in this bar. Imagine getting sloshed on rooster blood with this honking naked dude and then wandering into the woods to party with Chiniro. That is a night and a half right there. Beyond the borders of Hallstrom and the rest of the known world, why is there an entire civilization of goo-men? When Deidre notices a nearby goo-man is dead, Gollum says no, it's broken because it no longer has a purpose. That's ridiculously intriguing. I hate that Zeno Clash answers only one of the questions it proposes, and even that had to be wrestled from the game's rigor mortis clutches. That being said, there is no follow-up actually, I didn't write anything. I just hate it, I want these answers. When you can actually hear it through the storm of fists coming your way, Zeno Clash's soundtrack is as striking as its visual design. When you catch a breather long enough to look around, there's a startling dreamlike quality to the architecture. There's a grotesque serenity to Zeno Clash that invites you in, demands your attention, and then laughs as you're forced to choose violence at every opportunity. Its world is a locked glass door you can only appreciate from afar. I know next to nothing about Chilean history or culture, but I appreciate how much impact it's presumably had on Zeno Clash's visual style. Sure, some locations are obtuse, muddy jumbles of brown by today's standards, but where every similar setting from a North American or European studio looks like a degraded copy of Fallout or Mad Max, Zeno Clash establishes a bold identity all its own. If my thoughts on Zeno Clash seem random and confused, it's because they are. It's a random and confusing game that resists every effort to untangle its most basic aspects. Except the combat, the stuff you actually do. That part is crystal clear. Crunchier than a Nature Valley bar, and in your face to a fault. I would have loved more moments where I could just exist in this disturbing universe. I would have loved to learn fucking anything at all about the characters who live there. But alas, that's not what Zeno Clash provides. Instead, Zeno Clash is a 3 to 4 hour romp through, well, not really gorgeous environments or beautiful environments, but immensely vibe-tastic environments. You know, when they're trying to be more than just a forest or a desert. I also, I don't know if these random closing thoughts were helpful or interesting, but they're the lasting impressions Zeno Clash seared into my hippocampus. Honestly, some of them against my will. I don't want to still be thinking about that little owl lady who stood by completely unfazed as I hurtled one of the Three Stooges through her fruit stand. But she's there, sitting on the edge of my bed every night, stroking my hair as I try in vain to scream. Well, that's it. That's all I wrote down about this deceptively short little bejeweled turd of a game. I don't know if that's how I should end this. Zeno Clash is fine. It's good. It's okay. It's like $2 if you wait for a Steam sale, and there is very little in this life that is not worth $2. Speaking of things that could possibly result in $2, don't forget to smash the absolute gosh dang heckin' bejesus out of that like button. And also, I don't know, like, consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of these, because I'm hopefully going to make more of these. Thanks, and have a good... Oh my Jesus Christ, the sun is a day. Have a good day.